So, welcome to my presentation. I'm going to be discussing how we in Amadeus have mastered a highly distributed architecture using Neo4j. My name is Thomas Lawrence. I'm an enterprise architect inside Amadeus, and I'll take you a bit through my background as well. And I'm going to be here to discuss our little furry creature we call YAC, Y-A-C, which stands for Your Architecture Cartography. So we try to embody the idea, not just have a system, but really try and give it an ecosystem. So a little about me. I grew up in a small town called Bexley-on-Sea in the southeast of England. That's where I spent a predominant number of my years. However, I was very lucky that Amadeus approached me to be able to come and work at their Sophia-Antipolis site. So this is in the south of France. Getting a bit of a feel here, southeast of the country is quite a nice place for me. Also, we realized when we built these slides that the buildings look very similar. So maybe I'm attracted by something which looks very similar to my home upbringing. This, in case you didn't know, is based in the French Riviera. So, okay, please don't throw anything at me. No, some of us are lucky enough to work there. Some of us are lucky enough to work in New York. So lots of different chances. I wouldn't be doing my company justice if I didn't explain a little bit about who Amadeus is. So I'm afraid there's a couple of corporate slides with the standard bullet points, and then we'll move forward and we'll have something a little bit different. So to get the tagline perfectly correct, we are the leading technology company dedicated to the global travel industry. How many of you flew here today or for this conference? A couple of hands, okay. Likelihood is, whichever airline you worked with, there will be a booking inside Amadeus for that. We're pretty much everywhere inside the global industry. That was where we grew up. We were founded by 3 airlines across Spain, France, and Germany, and also Nordic with SAS. But now we're global. Hotels, cruise, car, we're pretty much everywhere. So we're working with a lot of the big groups across the world. We are across 190 plus countries. So we're represented in more countries than Starbucks, which is quite good, but also McDonald's, which is also quite cool. So we're pretty much everywhere you can think of as well. We have 15,000 plus employees. Not a small company, but the interesting thing is most people don't realize that we exist because we're there in the background doing the booking for the airlines, doing the bookings for the car companies. So we have a different take on that. To give you some of the ideas of the numbers, we boarded, so that's the number of people who got onto a plane using our system, 1.3 billion people in 2016. So we're highly transactional. And that's the key kind of area for us. We have Forbes, who think we're quite nice as well, putting us as one of the top 15 companies, software companies in the world. So we're doing okay as a company. Let's put it mildly. I come from research and development myself, so I have to speak to some of the technical people here because that's my core, that's where I grew up inside the companies. We are, as I say, highly transactional and highly diverse in our applications. We recently did a project which moved us away from IBM's TPF stack, which meant that we now have over 200 different applications, each with anything from 20 to 100 different components. So you do a bit of math and thousands of components which are deployed for our core systems. And that's just our core for the reservation distribution. That means that we hit 55,000 transactions per second at peak. That's quite a lot to process. We like to boast that it's more than Google. It depends how you look at statistics. As they say, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, so we can always fudge. But we do mean across an entire day, it's nearly 4 billion transactions which we handle, and that's constant throughout the day. It means that we store nearly 50 petabytes of data that's stored on our systems. So it's a large system for us, and this is all to do reservation of travel plans, hotels, cars, airlines. In terms of innovation, we have 40 sites which are there for research and development. Over the past 12 years, 13 years now, we have bumped 4 billion euros into innovation. So that's a massive investment on our side as well. And we're one of the leading R&D in our industry. So these are our corporate slides. These are the ones which we're very proud of, I think is the best way to put it. But I'm here to discuss about how we take those systems with thousands of components and how we try and understand that, and actually from a technical but also a business standpoint understand that using Neo4j. So to do that, hopefully the clicker lasts throughout the whole thing. So to do that, I'm going to tell you a story. So there's going to be quite a few nice photos up there. And the story is really about how over the last 2 years we have used Neo4j to understand our architecture better. How do we deploy things from an operational standpoint? How do our product managers understand that environment? Because we all know, whether you're from the business or the technical side or the operations side, you have a different viewpoint. How can you do that in a single tool to help everybody have the same view? As we found out, as architects, that's quite a tough thing. So we'll show you the story that we go through. So we started an ambitious project around 3 years ago to build up a cartography. Let's build up our architectural cartography of our company. Let's link from products down to functionalities, down to applications. It's a nice goal, and we managed to accomplish it. But as you can imagine, it's quite high level. Not quite, it really is too high level for what we wanted to do. As we built that up, we also had to apply a model to this. So as an enterprise architect, you build up your model and people can add information into that. But it makes it very rigid. It means that if you want to add a new type of information, you need to take time to adjust your model. There's no flexibility involved in this. The other one, which we had as a very, very big pain point, was everybody who wanted to update that cartography needed to download a package, install it locally, connect to a remote file, and pull it off. Now, getting that up and running took a little while, but then actually using it each time, 5 minutes to start up, pull the file from the server and carry on working, that's too painful. So people wouldn't update it. So we had information which was becoming static and useless, in fact. So we needed something which is much more dynamic. Therefore, we decided to sit down and think, or in this case, the gentleman here, stand up and think, looking out over the landscape of London. I had to get England in there somehow. So we decided to sit down and think, what do we want from a tool when we're trying to understand our architecture? What is it that it's going to bring to us? And the key area which we looked at is flexibility. As you see in the previous examples, we really want something which doesn't have a rigid model and can allow us to flex to new content, and something which isn't a fat client. So in order to trace you through this story, I'm going to bring these slides up a few times to give you kind of a feel of where we are in our process. So the first point we said with the content, there's a high-level cartography, the model is too rigid, and the tooling is it's a fat client. So it's limiting us. The content, while it's high level, was still good quality for a while. And then with time, it degrades. We change our systems like every company. Nothing stays static for very long. Give it a month, and it's probably got the wrong information, maybe in 20% of it. So you need to keep updating. So there's a turning point. We needed a change. We sat down, we had a think. We need to be more flexible. After that, we started to analyze what we actually had. When you do an architectural model, what do you actually have? Well, you have a bunch of UML diagrams or architectural diagrams. What does that look like? Well, it looks just like a graph. You have one box connected to another with a direction and some properties about it. Well, that looks very much like a graph. Maybe I can start leveraging graph technology. Has anybody, by show of hands, seen this diagram on the right-hand side before? Yeah. So it's all the languages which are used to connect to the Neo4j. And I'm quite happy to see this one because university, quite a few years back, looked at Haskell. So I'm glad to see that Haskell's still surviving that. Another thing we did is we realized we want to explore. Having something which is static, like a typical UML diagram or any architectural diagram, it doesn't give you that tangibility of How is my architecture deployed? What else is connected to it? What else aren't I seeing? It's not necessarily what do I see on the piece of paper, but what am I missing as well? And again, by a show of hands, because I like trying to get someone awake in the audience as well. Who knows what this disk is? Got one, two, three. Good. Okay, I'm glad to hear it. Anybody want to shout out an answer? Sorry? Voyager? Yeah. So this was attached by NASA to the Voyager probe as it was sent out to really tell people where is Earth, and there is on the other side a record track about Earth, the sounds of Earth. The other thing we want to do is visualize all of this. Having something which is static, as I say, wasn't providing the right information. Having an Excel report is maybe good when you're throwing it towards your product management, but for those of us who are a little more technical or explorers, we want to do something more with it. So we want to visualize. When we're looking at the market, we realized that when we look towards graph databases and Neo4j, we can also pick up key lines very quickly and put the two together. Is there anyone from Keylines in here? No, I'm not going to get into trouble if I say anything bad, then that's a good start. So to come back to this, with the content, it's starting to get outdated. It's not as new as we want it. We're now about 6 months into it. There's a few changes, but it's not providing the right content to us. The model is increasingly more restrictive. While we don't have updates to the content, we do have people saying, hey, I really want to put this in. Yeah, but it doesn't, I can't group them together. It doesn't fit. So I need to have a model which can adapt. The tooling, we did quite nicely. We picked up a new version. The client got a bit thinner. We went from a 5-minute startup to around 5 seconds. Very, very happy. But still someone had to install it. So if you want to do a quick update, it's a bit painful. I'll leave it. Or I'll drop an email to someone and they can manage it. So it's not quite the same thing. So there's a change. Our change was to look for Neo4j and look towards graphing database and what that can leverage for us to understand our architecture. The first thing we started to grow out is the content on that. So we're going to go through a series of slides here which really show how we started off as a very simple meta model. So this was around 2 years ago we started at this point. 6,000 objects, 15,000 relationships. It's small, especially for a company the size of Amadeus. It was obvious to us straight away that's not going to provide enough. We started to grow into one of our sister products inside our group, which looks after how we assess applications and functionalities and the NFRs they must adhere to and how you fit that together. So we're starting to grow, the ball's starting to roll along. We start to discuss with our business intelligence group to say, could you show information in here? I've heard the phrase data lake used so often now. Well, can you show me where your data lake is and what are you storing in it? Can you help other business users understand, do we already have an insight which would answer your query exactly, or with a slight adjustment? So can someone search for that directly inside the tooling? We had a massive breakthrough when we jumped up to 700,000 relationships and 90,000 objects when we look at how we do our integration from our customers to our applications. Their information is routed through our integrator, so we can loop from the right-hand side down and around into our applications. How they're communicating with us, which technical services they're using. So this suddenly bumped up the information and started bringing a lot more detail for the technical groups. We also then moved towards the operations side. How are we deploying this in terms of virtual and physical machines? How they're connected into the system? I have a descriptor of my application server. It knows about its IP. Well, now I can start leveraging to the next level underneath that and keep on growing. We also went to our business group to understand how our products are defined. It's quite crucial for us. We can't live in a world where we say, well, I'm just technical. I'm just research and development. Products don't matter to me. Well, actually, the product's the way we're selling it. So it's very crucial that you understand how can we reuse something for another product family? How can we share functionality between different groups? Or is there something, again, hiding in the background where we could merge it back together? Here we hit past 1 million relationships. So it was a good, fun time for us, and we felt very proud of where we got to at this point. Let's check. Yeah. So this isn't the clean, well, no, this is the clean view of what we've done. And it looks quite nice, and it's very nice to stand up here, and especially as an enterprise architect, you like to say, hey, this is my beautiful model. Isn't it amazing? Well, it's not really the truth, as anybody can tell you when you do architecture work. The real truth is much more like that. While it looks very scary, what we try and do is we hide it from our users as well using our tooling. It also shows how dynamically interlinked the application is, which sits just in the middle here. Don't know if you can quite see, but that's the core of Amadeus from a technical standpoint. Our next step was trying to look at visualizing this information. So we started working with keylines, doing proof of concept. Now, I apologize for the blur. When I took this through my management line to see, hey, what can I present when I head off to America? They said, yeah, not that bit, and that bit, can you blur that, and that, yeah. So I apologize for a couple of blurs you're going to see as you go through this now. I just heard the talk about GDPR, and we've got a very nice 2 slides on that, and there were more, and they came out. So we worked with keylines. We realized that keylines could not only give us information, nice view, but also it can handle a lot of information on the screen at one time. We can also leverage the concept of properties from Neo4j as well. So we have this ability now to visualize information which is running on top of Neo4j. And I say about Neo4j, and I need to, well, we're here at the conference powered by them. They're the heart of what we built. We did put in a couple of data stores next to it with Elasticsearch and MariaDB to give us some other capabilities around the meta model. But the heart of it is essentially Neo4j. We put keylines on top with AngularJS to provide us some nice UI, as you'll hopefully see in a minute. Typical back-end tier and managing everything we need to as we go. So we kept it as a very simplistic architecture, keeping to the acronym of KISS. V1 lands. This was our big moment. We've taken something as a proof of concept and we've said, hey, let's build a product out of this. Let's actually give this to users and share it around. V2 kicks off by saying, let's try and improve upon that and give them a quick way to search for information. But for those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice that we have a couple of concepts across here: functional model, module, product, application, technology standard. Now I know what those mean because I use them every day. But we very quickly learned that even if you're within the technical group or the business group, you don't necessarily have the same opinion on that word definition. So that doesn't actually help us. So we had to simplify this. This still meant you need to understand the meta model before you could actually work on our tooling. So we came up with the pretty entry page, the landing page, which looks much like some of the big search engines out there. It allowed you to go in and type anything you wish and then start to look for it. So even if you don't have the same understanding of what is a product to me, you can type in the name of the so-called product you're looking for and it will come up. So rather than risking a live demo effect, I cheated. Although I've run this a couple of times and the video broke once, so we'll see how the live video demo works. So the first thing we came up with is the concept of a core relationship. So as a user, I come along and I want to search for our availability processing engine called APE. We can select that, and straight away I'm given a list of relationships from the meta model, which as a enterprise architect, I deem to be most relevant to you. So we can select those and the user can use those as they need to. They also have the ability to add anything else from the meta model as well. So they can adapt the viewpoint which they want and they can customize that. Clicking the show me now, we leverage keylines and we throw up a nice graph. So we can iconize everything. We have on the left-hand side a properties panel, and we'll take you through some of the other pieces as well. So another key part, as I said, was being able to contribute. It's all very well having something there, and with a lot of automated sources. We're roughly 90% automated sources. On a weekly basis, we synchronize against 20 other repositories across Amadeus to pull in the latest information, the latest product listing, the latest deployment view, the latest virtual machines. So we always keep ourselves refreshed and updated. The key area is then, how do I contribute? So in the top right-hand corner, you may be able to see that my colleague Marc Lissier is coming along. He's searching for a component called ABR, which again is linked to our famous APE application here. And he's going to go and click on this, and he's noticed that the name is incorrect. It says availability business rules. So he knows that it's not right. You'll notice that I'm the point of contact in there. He leaves a comment saying the correct name is Amadeus Business Rules. And he says thank you. Very gentlemanly like my colleague. Adds in the comment. He does something I'm not so happy about because I'm the owner here, but he gives me a downvote. So we have a confidence inside the system where other users can say, I'm confident or I'm not. Clicks on my email address and he fires me off an email. But how does he actually share the same view which he's been looking at? We have the ability to copy out the queries or a URL which directly links to that. We also have a bookmarking view as well. So he can then put that in, which allows me to open up my emails, we'll see in a second, and jump exactly same view. So here I come along, I have my email, I can click on it, and I get my viewpoint. So I have the same two pieces which he saw. I can then click on the same thing, I see his comment, I see his downvote. I can very nicely pick up, because he's been very kind and actually given me the text to copy and place. So Amadeus Business Rules is the correct name for ABR. Save this, which is saved directly into Neo4j. So we leverage the properties on each of the node inside Neo4j. We don't try and store that somewhere else. We really use Neo4j. Give a comment, and because I don't like the 0% confidence, I give it an upvote, at least to get to 50%. So now we can see. Hopefully he'll come back and he'll give us a nicer thumbs up afterwards as well. So that's one of the ways in which we can build an ecosystem. The last one I want to speak about is, or demonstrate rather, is looking at an advanced search. So we're trying to simplify the view of something very complex underneath to our users. We have a couple of advanced searches. One is the typical kind of advanced filters. So here you can select which relationships you'd like to show, much like on the main page, and also filter on different properties. So picking application, we have 5 customized, and the list of the different relationships based on the meta model. We also have an expert mode. So here, if you have the right permissions, you can enter Cypher directly into it, and then we parse it through our security system. So we make sure that you don't see anything you're not meant to. It's quite crucial for some of our business users. The key area, though, is the shortcuts. So these are much like, it's a predefined piece of Cypher query. Okay? So as any user, you can go and you can create this and you can customize it for someone else. Here we're looking for application functional dependencies. So as my application, who else depends on me? I add in our now famous APE, and I get a nice view like this. So I have APE as a viewpoint. I also have the functionality. I can use keylines to give me a nicer view as well and manage that and share that. At any point, I can also expand to any other relationship in there. We saw from the keynotes as well, it's something which Neo4j are doing in their browser. Having a graph view is useful for exploring, but we all know that someone's going to ask us for an Excel sheet at some point. So we also got pushed to add the requirement to do the same query, but bring it back as a table and download it as an Excel sheet. It's something we all know. We're never going to escape the world of Excel. It's the way the world works now. So those are some of the functionalities we've done. With the short timing, we had to cram them in. Hopefully you're liking what you're seeing. An important point for us is using those different repositories to build a view across the enterprise. Most groups we have, whether they're operational or technical, they know their world very well, but they don't necessarily connect to another area, and they can't share terminology, and they can't try and explain to each other, I have a problem over here, and it's because of your point here. So we start by trying to look at which products use JBoss EAP. We can start with the standard. We look, thanks to our auto detection agents, where is that actually deployed? What versions do we have out there? We can expand to the machines, virtual machines on top of the physical machines. We can expand then to the application servers via their descriptors. We look at the applications thanks to our MDM system. And finally out to commercial products. So from one view, and this is obviously a graph view of this, and we can throw it up as an Excel sheet if we wish with any information inside that. Those of you who know Cypher will see how that works nicely. But we can have a viewpoint. So this is a very small example. This is certainly not the complete view. Another view which was very useful for us is to look at how a customer connects to our applications. It's something which is an age-old question. I have thousands of customers out there. How are they actually then connecting to my applications behind that? Which services are they consuming? So we can build a view where we can see their applications, we can see how they're routed through our systems, which technical services they're using, and unfortunately these aren't blurred, it's just we removed the names completely this time. So there's all real information, it's just, we have to keep some of the information for ourselves. So I mentioned around GDPR, the presentation which came just before this one. The example which I'm going to give is a very simplified view of what we wanted to do. So this is one of our first use cases within an iterative type of module. Trying to be very agile about this, we said, what could we do first? What's the first thing we want to look at? Well, we have customers, they contract products, those products touch data, and they're running on data centers. So this is a very simple view, but it gets complicated very quickly. A customer contracts multiple products within our ecosystem. We have somewhere in the range of 200 to 600 products available. You can jump onto Amadeus.com and you can start seeing the complete listing of that. So they contract these products, and we use our knowledge of the meta model behind that to try and understand from a product, going down through all the layers, which database does it hit and what data does that have on the other side as well. So we can visualize that. The key thing here is really saying, when you're a customer, we're hiding that complexity. We can build you a report which just says, you have these products, and it means that you are now manipulating this data. It's a very simplified view to get us started. So we're back to the little catch-up point on here as well. Content, we got Neo4j. We're now at full steam. We have automated systems filling the information. We built an ETL tool, although I'm looking at the keynote speech and thinking I'm going to leverage that new ETL tool very, very quickly. So we can now import thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of lines of information very, very quickly thanks to Neo4j, which allows us to expand our model very, very quickly. I didn't give the gauge on this one a full kind of 90% mark, because as we import more data, the model becomes more complex. The more complex the model, the more we have to understand it to show to our users something simple. So with the GDPR example just before, there is a long chain of relationships from that data to the product, and we can hide that. Again, for those of you who have been using Neo4j for a while, we use the APOC library to create virtual relationships, which are then shown into the UI behind that. And of course, being Neo4j powered, working very web-based, we've now got a tool which is very flexible. We have an ecosystem where people can jump onto our site and just start updating information. So what's next? Well, so my final couple of slides are really to explain where do we want to go next. And Benoit, who's sitting in the front here, is going to know this one quite well. We had a nice chat with Neo4j, who came down to visit us in Sophia Antipolis to see what we're doing. One of the biggest pain points we said is we have all these different repositories talking about the same thing. So I'm Thomas Lawrence. But if you go to Facebook, you may see a different view of me to if you go to LinkedIn, to if you go to Instagram, to if you go to any of the other platforms like Twitter. Nice introduction. So you have different views of the same thing, but there's only one me. So you need a system which can have the concept of a golden record, a record which is populated from multiple referentials and then having one viewpoint of that, but still keeping the others around, because we all know that we get an audit at some point and they say, okay, you said that Thomas Lawrence has a middle name beginning with S. Prove to me why you think that. So we always need the auditory tracing behind that as well. So techniques are the big area we want to go into. How do we understand our model better? How can we leverage APOC? How can we leverage the new 3.3 version Neo4j as well? Another area crucial to us, especially when we start looking towards GDPR, is security. We already have a layer built into our tooling which allows us to customize what a given user can or can't see, both in terms of objects, but also in terms of relationships. So every time we dig through the information on Neo4j, it gets thrown back to us, and then we very quickly sort out, okay, you can't see this, you can see that, and pass that back up. We've done a lot of work in this area. As I'm sure you can imagine, one of the key things for us was to say, if there's a long chain and you can't see something in the middle, well, you can't see the endpoint either. If you know your cipher and we gave the access to some people, the easiest way to find out how someone's going to abuse your system is give it to users. This is one of those famous fables, I think, now. Throw it out there and see what happens. Sure enough, we saw that some people were saying, well, you say I can't see this bit, but I know roughly that with Cypher, I can say, ignore anything in between, I just want a link from here to here. So we had to work out how do we stop that from happening. So security is a step forward, which we're doing. We want to leverage more Neo4j as well and start using their procedures to help us for that. So this is a funny transition to a car. What we want to say here is Neo4j is much like a supercar. It's incredibly powerful. For those of you already using it, you know how powerful it can be and the idea of graphing. For those who aren't using it, you're going to find out very soon. And the thing I would say to you is please make sure that when you're using Neo4j, it's less like a supercar covered over and much more fun to play with. We want to make sure that our tooling and also Neo4j is available to our user community inside Amadeus so that they can start enhancing what we already have. Make it something fun to play with rather than something hidden away. It's a cool piece of tech, but let's keep it hidden away. I really should have replaced the batteries. Okay, so we have a graph already. We can openly explore that graph, and finally we're still learning. It's very crucial to us to keep learning, as for anyone. So I thank you very much, and I will also take this chance to be very cheeky. Let's try that again, shall we? You get the impression I like cars now, I guess. So I didn't get a demo effect, I didn't get a video effect, but I did get a PowerPoint effect. Let's go with that one. So, thank you very much to the YAC team. There was only 3-4 of us working on this for the past 2 years. Hopefully you can see that with that we've done quite a lot across the organization. We have grown from working within purely the R&D area to also working with our legal departments, corporate finance, corporate strategy, and growing what we can do inside that. Thank you very much.